this computer. Okay. Okay, so yesterday we discussed why I prefer one expect per test. Can one of you repeat back to me why I prefer one expect per test?
Because if you have multiple expects in a test and any one of them fail, the whole test fails.
You do know which one, you know one that's causing the problem because Mocha will tell you the one that failed, but any ones after that, you don't know whether they succeeded or failed. So you just don't get as complete a picture of what's going on with your software as you do if you have one expect per test. We refactored those tests about that tested to see whether objects have the properties that we expect. We refactored those to make it more dry, and we abstracted it out into a function so it can be used in multiple tests. And if we decide to test those properties in a different way, it'll just automatically affect all the tests. So that's just one of the benefits of abstraction. We discussed integration versus unit tests and stubbing / mocking. So the fact is, if we are testing a function that uses any other functions, it is an integration test unless we stub or mock out those other functions. And then we started to write tests in code for getUserData, but we didn't get very far because we got bogged down by all of this. So let's see if we can complete that today. You never know. Okay, so all right, so let's remember what getUserData is supposed to do. getUserData, it's going to get the user table data for and posts and cities. Okay, and so it's going to have all of these. It's going to have all of these properties. So that's one. That's one test we can do for sure. And then we're just returning a promise that resolves to an empty object, just so the test will run without error anyway. So let's go back to user actions. And all right, so we have our, for the user exists, we're going to reset the database and retrieve the user, get user data. Uh-oh, I have a feeling I did not import it or require it. So let's do that up here. Ooh, no. All right, so, and then, cannot invoke an expression. Oh, I think what I did was I exported an object instead of just exporting the function. So I think in get user by email, I just exported the function, but in get user data, I exported the object. So when I tried to like run the object as a function, it's freaking out. My type checking is. So let's, let's see. Oh, I didn't export anything. So even worse. Okay. The type checking is actually really convenient in, oh my God, I had a dream last night. I had a horrible programming dream, and not a horrible programming dream, but a dream where I was feeling guilty about not having set up ESLint in VS Code.
Were you hearing my voice?
No, I wasn't. It was my own voice. But then I was like, but I'm using Prettier and I'm using JSLint and or JS Hint, and I'm using, and I'm using the type checking. I was very defensive about it. Yeah, I know, really. I know. Okay, so oh, thank you. Yes. Yes, exactly. So now, so let's go back to here. And so now, oh, nope, not here. Wait, hold on. So now it's happy. Okay, cool. So let's, I'm going to just close some of these because they are not interesting to me. And now I can just go back and forth between these two more easily. Okay, so cool. So the first thing we'll do is we will check to see whether it has the properties that it's supposed to have. So let's, and remember how we had to wrap that in an it, otherwise it ran the test properties not as a test, but just when it ran through the file at first. Do you remember that from yesterday? We were having a problem when I just did test properties, even though test properties contained an it, because it wasn't wrapped in an it didn't, it just ran it like right away before it had run the before, and it wasn't a good test. So oh, and this actually is supposed to be a before. This is going to be get user data, and it will be test at test.com. Is that what let's see. Nope, test at test.test. Oh, okay. And fine. Okay, so, and there's the user data up there. So now we can say user data, and we want to have all of these plus cities and posts. All right, so, and this test user properties will run, we'll just run a bunch of its for every property. Okay, so let's actually try that. See what we get. Okay. I don't like this at all. And I thought this was working yesterday. So what happened? Oh, maybe I changed the wrong. Yeah, I might have changed. Let's see. So this is doing get user data. Did I change? Oh, I changed this to get user data. Right. Let's try again, but this is not good. We expected that to be red. So, and that's one of the benefits of TDD is that if I had just done this after I'd written the function, I might have been like, hooray, everything works, you know, and moved on. Whereas now I'm expecting it to fail. So let's, you know, but this test the properties isn't getting, okay, so now, all right, a couple of things. First of all, this test the properties is not giving me the like one expect per line that I want, which apparently it didn't here either. But I wanted, you know, one test, you know, one test per property. So that's not helping. And then also this, are we getting the return null when email doesn't exist? We are. Okay. But I don't think test the properties is actually working. So let's figure out why. So if we go into test properties, or here, I currently am not quite used to my little keyboard shortcut there. So let's, all right, it certainly goes through all the properties. But it doesn't seem to be doing this it. It doesn't seem to be associating this it with the actual test. I did a bunch of this with my other project. I did a bunch of this with my other project where I abstracted tests out, and I didn't have this problem. So let's take a look at my other project and see what I was doing differently. So if I and let's code this. And server and test and utilities. And then I think maybe the difference is, oh, this is auth API stuff. This is different. But I think the difference is that I do the whole test. All right, I'm going to, just for now, because I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this, I am going to unabstract this, sad but true. So I'm gonna unabstract this and put it back in here, and just go with the refactored. So I'm going to remove that one, and then where I do the test properties, I'm actually going to go back to what I had before. And I may look into this a little bit more later if I have time, but for now, I'm feeling like we need to move on. So we'll just go back to this, which is better because at least it's drier, right? And what did I call it? User row. Okay, so at least I'm doing the for each and I don't have like each test copied and pasted. Yeah, so let's just make sure that that works. And then I'm going to just comment this out for now. But that's a bummer. That really just didn't work. Okay, well, this doesn't work now either. So line 90, it doesn't. Boy, okay, so where? If we do that, that's good for that it. This is good for that before. Oh, okay. Let's try that again. Oh. Okay. All right. Well, at least we're testing all the properties now. A little sad we can't abstract that, but yeah, was just like, yeah, I guess you can't have nested its. Think about that. There's got to be a way to do it, but for now, we'll just let's see. we won't throw this away yet. And if one of you figures out how to do it, make a pull request. All right, so let's do the same thing here where we do, let's see. Now, I don't want to type all of that out because I have it here. Okay, so now I should get some good failures. Not that kind of failure. Okay. No. Okay. Get user data. Oh, I think I'm still wrapped in an it tests the properties here. Okay. Fine. All right, so now let's actually write, oh, and what will we expect? Let's see, in the non-user exist case, will we expect it to return null? Let's see if we actually gave it, yeah, we return null if the user wasn't found. So let's write that one too. It's gonna look a whole lot like this one.
So the reason for having it return null when a user doesn't exist instead of being caught as an error, can you explain like what you're?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. You could go either way, and either way you would have to handle it. Here, I guess I'm distinguishing between a case where the query worked fine, just didn't return anything, versus when when there was like an error connecting to the database or something like that.
Yeah, I always get confused about like what to do in those circumstances.
Yeah. You could also throw a custom error and handle it, so basically we want to communicate to whatever function calls this that we didn't find a user. And you can do it in two ways. You can do it by returning null, or you can do it by returning a custom error, or by throwing a custom error. I'm more used to working with custom exceptions in Python. I really haven't delved much into custom errors in JavaScript. So that's probably one of the reasons I'm choosing null rather than a custom error. Okay. So let's, okay, and then what else? So let's test that and make sure that we get another failure. This is basically like this whole thing is like, you should be using Python because Python doesn't care whether you close things properly as long as your indentation is correct. But there's that. Ooh, there's that. I don't think we need that. Okay, let's try that again. And if we don't need that, then we don't need this either. It did return null when the user didn't exist. But it didn't. It returned an empty object. if you were thinking about whether or not I needed to return something, that would, you know, that's a good instinct.
I was thinking about done.
User data is null. Really? Oh, I'm doing get return user by email, or get user by email, and not get user data. Motherfucker, no. But again, this is why it's just to hammer the point home. This is why it's so good to make sure that you have a test that fails, right? Because otherwise, I would just be testing get user by email twice and never testing the null situation. Okay, better. That's what I expected to see. So, what else do I need to test here? So now let's get out of the weeds and start really thinking about what else. I tested the properties of what the promised resolved to. What else do I need to test?
So we're going to be getting this posts and cities through, like through a SQL join. I can imagine a lot of things going wrong. So I guess making sure that the user ID associated with that post is actually the correct user.
Okay. Okay, cool. So making sure that the user ID for the post is actually the correct user. How can we do that?
It's hard without like seeing, like, trying to think of the SQL query first.
Okay.
I mean, we could make sure when we do the join that we're also returning the user ID on posts and seeing if post.userID matches user.id.
Yeah, and actually I want these to be arrays, not objects, right? Because I want an array of posts and I want an array of cities, right? So maybe even before that, I can test that I got arrays for these, right? With me?
I'm just.
Do you just want to use includes?
Yeah, I'm serious. I'm curious. I'm sorry because I was late and I haven't been to where to. I'm just wondering where it's been written.
No. Right now we're doing red green. We're doing test driven development, and so we're doing red green, and right now we're on the red. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I gathered.
Yeah. Good to confirm. Okay. So, and I'm sure if I had actually recorded yesterday, you would have watched the YouTube and you would have been all caught up because I didn't record, like.
Binge watch it, popcorn.
That's right. Be on the couch for 4 days. Okay. All right. So, great. So let's check to see whether those are arrays. Let's do that. So, so here we did our for each. And now let's do another for each. And we'll do, and you know what? I actually think, again, I want to do a dry thing because I used this array. So I'm going to say const user props. Or you don't need to do that here. You can just do this. So, and then I'll change this to be user props. And then this one, I'll do user, and then for this cities and posts, I'm just up here, I'm going to say const extra data props is this. Or I can say instead, I'm just thinking about it, I can say full user props is going to be user props plus. Can I do that with arrays? Apparently not. Maybe. How do we do that?
So you're just trying to test each array?
Well, I'm just like, basically, I want this one. Oh, no, actually, okay, wait, hold on. I want extra data props because I want those separately because I'm going to test to see whether each of those is going to have an array as a value. And then I want to be both of those datas. So both of those arrays. So I'm going to, because I didn't like any of your answers, concatenate two arrays JavaScript. Array.concat. Meta for the win. Okay. Wow. I'm fascinated by this example, but all right, whatever. All right, so what's that? You used it when?
I used it like back in like a learning job.
Oh, right, yeah.
2 years ago.
Okay, so here we're gonna say full user props. We want to do everything, the user props plus these extra ones, but then we'll do extra data props. And now we'll say it, let's see, it returns an array value for the you all with me? I believe so. That's a good question. When it says children, I'm guessing that, but let's try it ourselves, shall we? Yeah, so it looks like children is, although I don't know, is that how you make an array? Okay, well, we have two arrays, and when they do this, I'm guessing, but we can also just do this, so we can remove all doubt.
Now, have it say what's in I just
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, so I'm glad we checked. Oh, I should ask you while I get a Kleenex. Think about what is my expect going to be here? Think about it. Thank you. You don't know? Or you do know? What's well, what's in the parentheses, and then what's like after the two, you know, whatever. What do y'all think? I mean, it's not a function. It's just an array.
Oh wait, so we're doing for each.
Yeah. So this would just give me two trues, because yes, extra data pops is an array, no problem. But what I really want to know is what I got from my getUserData. Do I have an array value for this particular property? So basically, how do I access this particular property from my from whatever my returned user data? How do I access that?
So it's not as easy as just
like this? What data type is prop? Do we know?
So it should be, so extra data props is array that consists of arrays.
Nope, just two strings.
Two strings.
Yeah. Now here, my problem with this test, and also with the one that you proposed before, not to pick on you, James, but is that I'm not actually testing user data. I'm not testing what I got back, right? This is, it's sort of just testing my internal structures that I've made for the test, which don't need to be tested. How do I get the value for this property from user data, the objects that I got back? We're getting back an object, which is user data. Yeah, and the way we're doing that is we're just like taking whatever the promise resolved to and setting it to this user data, which is scoped so that it can be accessed in each of these it functions as well.
Okay, I was totally confused between extra data and full user props.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, so a lot of this is like sort of my brain that, you know, is spewing stuff out that may or may not like be in sync with your brains. Okay, so now I have this object, user data, and I want to see whether the value for a particular property, in this case I'm looking at both cities and posts, I want to see whether that's an array. Exactly. How do we do that? Like this? Y'all good with that? Should be what? What property is it going to find here? It's actually going to find prop. That's the problem with the dot notation, right? Is if, what's that? Yeah, exactly what we need is bracket notation, right? Because if I say prop, and then I say What's that going to give me? Undefined, because it's looking for a string key called prop. Right? If I do object dot hello, that'll give me goodbye. And if I do object bracket notation, just like Jonathan said, right? Why is this? Because dot notation assumes that you mean a string here. And so it's looking for a string, the string property, or string prop as a property, right? And if you don't mean a string, if you don't mean that literal string for what's after the dot, then you have to use bracket notation. It's weird. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, because when you just start learning objects, you see like there's no difference. You can do either bracket notation or dot notation. They say like if property is like 2 words, like it's like not just hello, but hello dear, then you could use brackets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just if it's not a literal string, if it's a variable that contains the string, you have to use bracket notation. This is really subtle, this thing here. And I haven't gotten on my Python soapbox for a while, but that's true. I complained about the bracket or the matching braces. But yeah, there is no dot notation in Python. And in some ways, this dot notation is like really lovely and clean, but it's also kind of confusing because you're treating this hello as a string and it doesn't have any quotes around it, right? Whereas Python, your only options are object hello like this, where it's a string inside, or object prop. Right, and so it's much clearer whether it's a literal string or whether it's a variable that you're referencing. I was at Dropbox last night for an event, and do you know that Guido van Rossum, the guy who wrote Python, works at Dropbox? I did not meet him there, but yeah, he's almost as great as Stephen Greider. All right, so here we can't do this, we have to do this. Great, undefined. That's what it'll do if the property doesn't exist, so that's fine. Okay, what other tests might we want to do here? James was talking about making sure that posts and cities, or at least posts like were associated with the user. One way we can do that is we're going to know what user we're doing. We're doing that's what I wanted to do. The user that we're doing is test at test. And if we remember, probably weeks ago, here, we actually, when we seeded the database, we had this test user. We associated this test user with a post, and we associated that with a comment, but we're not dealing with comments right now. And because we associated that user with a post, they should also be associated with one city. So another thing we could do is here, in addition to expecting it to be an array, we could also, really? We could also, it returns an array of length 1. Because we're going to expect this user to have 1 post in 1 city based on how we seeded the database. Can you do that? I don't know. Let's see. To be length 1, you think? Let's see what we get. Okay, so it's 11 and 13. 11, target cannot be null or undefined. Oh, this is hard to know. This is hard to know. I think I'm going to just leave that for now. Okay. Man, I totally thought we were going to get this function written today, but it's never that easy. So, time for check-in. Maybe tomorrow we'll write our second function. No, third.
Are you doing?